Hey, what's up? It's the Existential Stoic podcast. And, if you're like us, you probably beat yourself up sometimes. You can be kind of mean to yourself, probably say things to yourself that are worse than any other living person would ever say to you. And if that happens, sometimes, well, you're in luck. Because today, our quick fix, we're going to talk about how to talk to yourself, how to not, beat yourself up. I'm Danny. This is Randy. What's
Hey,
up?
Danny. Yeah, if that happens
What's
to
up?
you, you're in good company because we all do it from time
Yeah.
to time, probably every single day. But yeah, today
Yeah.
we get to talk about how actually to talk to yourself.
Yeah, ideally how to do it in a healthy way, right? I mean, it's amazing how we treat ourselves sometimes when you think about it and the way we let it go, but it's like we think for some reason it's necessary. I don't know, it's nuts. Yeah,
Hmm.
so we all have our tips, right? So everybody can talk to themselves hopefully in a better way. I'm going to start. Um, my first one is actually kind of more about listening to yourself, but listening to your physical body and emotions for clues essentially. Because I think we forget to do this, like when we're feel exhausted, when we feel like depressed, when we have like, feel angry, things like that. Those are all hints about, maybe something's wrong with our environment. Maybe we're doing something we shouldn't be doing. And so learning to listen to ourselves and listen to, what kind of hints our body can tell us is a good way, I think, to start also being a better communicator with respect to ourselves.
That's a great point because we're really like hurried nowadays. We're stressed. We're doing a million things at once, and all of this like it's always like external, always pushing external, and we don't have that time where we just sit down and listen and kind of understand what's going on. So I think that's definitely something good because then you can actually, you know, hear what needs to be done.
Yeah, we don't ever like actually take the time to like reflect on where we are relative to like what we're doing, right? It's always just moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
constantly moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's another good point is to actually listen because when you slow down and listen, you'll hear what you're saying to yourself. And then you can actually
Yeah.
analyze it and see, oh, is this helping me or is this hurting me?
It's a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my first one is talk to yourself like your role models would talk to you. So people you look up to, people you admire, like maybe I don't know, a lot. We'll just throw some names out there, like Einstein or Edison or Musk or any of these people, or any of these people who you think is a real success in life that you look up to in life, and you think, they've done it. Well, what would they say to you? Because I'm going to guess that what they would say to you or what they would say to themselves in the same situation is probably a little bit different than what you're saying to yourself now.
Yeah, I think that's a good one because I like that because you're also, it forces you to stop kind of like getting in that like negative loop in your head and kind of to actually think about, in context, well, what would somebody else say? What would what would this exemplary person say in this situation to themselves or to me? And how can that help me? So it's like looking for a guide rather than trying to like, beat yourself up,
Yeah, and I
which is
also
better.
I should have mentioned like aside from just like business successes, like the Buddha or Jesus
Yeah.
or Muhammad or any of these people, like what would they say to you or what would they say to themselves in the same situation? So yeah.
Also good examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Success is broadly construed. Yeah. All right. So my next one is that, I think, um, you know, ask yourself, like, how would you talk to your like best friend? I think this is a good one because, we've mentioned it before, but we're so quick when we're talking to ourselves to, call ourselves names, be like, I'm the worst, I'm a piece of shit, this and that. And really, would you speak to your best friend that way if they were having problems, if they were struggling with something? Really thinking about that and taking it to heart, I think can help a lot. I've done it myself and it really does help, change the dialogue and the content, what you're saying and why you're saying it. It makes you, more caring with respect to yourself, gentler, which I think is good. We all need
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely, because you need to be compassionate with yourself. You need to be friendly with yourself, like first before anybody else. Like everybody,
Yeah.
everybody always hears that thing. It's like love your neighbor as yourself, and they're like, oh, I need to love other people, and it's like no, it's like love them as yourself. So first, you have to love yourself, and so like loving yourself is treating yourself like a friend, being compassionate with yourself. So that's a great one. Um, my next one is remind yourself regularly that you're better than you think you are. So here's the thing.
I
We
like
are
that.
so good. Especially
Yeah.
like I'm not sure if you've had this scenario play out in your life, where the more you learn about something, the more you realize you don't know. So like the better you actually become at something, the worse you end up thinking you are.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's like our nature to think that we're worse than we actually are. So if you just remind yourself regularly that even if it doesn't feel like it, you are actually better than you think you are. So it's just a reminder that you're better than you think you are. So you can treat yourself that way.
I like that one too. That's a good one. And it's a good example too, because you're right. It's like, oh, is it a Socrates said, right? The only thing I know is that I know nothing. Because the more you know, the more you also start to understand all the holes and all the things we just don't know and we're not aware of. And yeah, it's a good one. And I think it really is helpful that, because we can do so much. And I think we limit ourselves thinking that way all the time. So that's a great one. My last one is pretty straightforward, but it's just, talk compassionately to yourself. I think, it's so easy to immediately go to, anger with ourselves, berating ourselves, kind of like really being very masochistic in a way with how we treat ourselves. And it's ultimately not helpful. I think a lot of times I think it comes from like that desire to want to be in misery almost, and that kind of pleasure from misery and finding a way to sort of, become a victim so we don't have to take on that responsibility. But it's harder, but it's better to be compassionate and to actually, be a part of the world and make something.
Yeah, that's something that not enough people do nowadays. We beat ourselves up so easily. We think we're such pieces of what, but like actually taking the time to love on yourself. Like in the mornings when I wake up, part of my morning routine is doing a compassion meditation because it helps to open up my heart, and I know that's something that I need to work on. And so like sometimes I'll just imagine me like hugging myself, because I know like when I hug other people, I can like really love them, but like imagining that I'm hugging myself, and that's like a really compassionate thing for myself. That's a great exercise that I would recommend for some people to try out.
I like that. That is a good one. Yeah. Because it kind of makes you that physical contact necessary too. So imagining that can kind of get you better in that headspace. I think that's a good one. I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my last one for how to talk to yourself is don't sell yourself short. Oh my goodness. The biggest weakness that most people have is that we sell ourselves short. And you're like, but I don't sell myself short. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, what about that job that you wanted that you just never applied for because you didn't think you'd rate up? Or maybe the girl you wanted to ask out, how you just thought she was out of your league, or whatever. Maybe it's the amount of money that you really want to have, but you just don't have it because, life is too hard. It's the politics and blah, blah, blah. Like all this stuff, we consistently sell ourselves short without even realizing it because we think it's something external to us. And we think that we can actually we actually know the answers, the truth about us. Like we know what's going on. So I would just challenge yourself when you're talking to yourself, don't sell yourself short, or at least at the very least, when you are selling yourself short, notice it. That's the first step. Notice it when you're doing it.
And it's such a good point too, because it's all about taking a chance on yourself, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, look, you can ask somebody out, you can apply for a job, and what's the worst that can happen? Well, you're in the same situation you were in before. I mean, really, right? It's not like it's not any worse. The only chance is that things get better, especially with something you really want. And I think we do that all the time. I think it's something I still struggle with all the time, which is, not realizing that, I just need to do things to make it happen. Right. And imagining that things are just, the way they are, because it's easier sometimes to think that way, but it doesn't help us long term. I like that. It's a good one. All right. Awesome. So, hopefully everybody can talk to themselves a little bit better. If you guys, we'll be back later this week with another episode. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Share, like, subscribe, do all that. It helps us out a lot. But until we come back with another episode, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.